Alright mud lovers, I'm out with Trimmy and Richard, and together we're going to get some luck in the muck. Hopefully a little bit of roaming, because old Steve here has got a few little spots he's going to show us, and we're all going to find some stuff hopefully, so let's get going.
Let's go find some roaming.
Let's do it. Oh, and this is Richard, by the way. If you don't know him, check out his YouTube channel. There'll be a link in the description below.
Hi there.
And he's famous for his pottery knowledge. He's just written his own book as well, which is really, really good. So there, all links below. Let's go and check him out.
Thanks, Si.
Mudlarks, sight and friends, history.
Let's see what we can find.
Comes alive. Mysteries, there's no end. Sapphires.
Nice sound, wasn't it? But you are a mud lover.
I'm a mud lover. I love all this stuff. So here we have a clay pipe. Won't take much to get that out. Yeah, just a plain one. Mid 18th. Nice one. So Trimmy thinks he might have something up. What you're looking at here is the base of a Roman pot. How amazing is that? Just sitting there, waiting to be saved. And what we're doing now is we're just probing to make sure we haven't left any behind, because very often there could be part of the full vessel just beneath the surface.
It shows it's here.
Absolutely. Yep, we'll take that one, I think. Transfer where? The Rich has kindly confirmed. Let's see if we can give it a little bit of a clean up. Don't know how well it'll clean, but it's not too bad. Yeah, well, Jerry, Victorian?
Yeah, but Georgian or Victorian.
Oh, excellent.
Sort of 1810 onwards.
Yeah, guy with a beard. Looks almost Roman, the way that he's stood there.
This is a flint, but it's a bit different because it's calcite, which means it's been burned.
Okay.
And archaeologists sometimes call these pot boilers, because the prehistoric people, Mesolithic, Neolithic, they would heat these in the fire and then they would put them into water to help it boil quicker.
Ah.
So you often find these where the prehistoric people have been gathering, hunter-gathering, that sort of stuff.
Awesome. And that is that made from like a limestone or something? Or?
Yeah, flint is, I think it's silica, isn't it? Yeah, so flint is formed on the seabed millions of years ago, and then obviously they're using flint to make tools.
Yeah.
But the knobbly bits, they would heat in the fire, which gives it this cracked exterior, and they drop it into water to make the water boil quicker.
Excellent. I'll just walk straight past that. But an expert like yourself, you can see that at 20 paces. Well done.
Thank you.
This is a boat hook. I think there would have been a bit of there that's probably snapped off, probably why it got thrown away. There would have been a spike or something there. Seen better days, but yeah, definitely a boat hook. Easily 100 years old. But I'll leave that for the next larker. Centuries and centuries of mud all laid up, and now it's eroding again. A bit of Roman coming out this cliff face. So I've just pulled out a couple of teeth in the same spot. You can see there a bit of, I think that could be bone. I've just found a big lump of So look, another tooth there. Okay, that's 3 big teeth. And I think this could be, if I turn that over gently, that's the skull of a horse. And maybe that was part of it somehow. That's pretty mad. Feels like a horse, the way that the nose comes down. So could this be a Roman horse? It's got to be, right? Cool, it's heavy. I'll get some of that. Clay out. There's another tooth. Oh, there's a part. The rest of the skull's here as well. There's another part of it. Look at that. Can't be a probe. That's how I found it. It's just a random horse's head. It'd be good if it was a part of a burial, wouldn't it? Yeah, fragments of bone everywhere.
Might be a victim of the Roman Empire.
I feel more underneath my fingers. There you go, there's more bone. Maybe the whole horse is here. Unless it's like, there's another bit there. I need to.
I think the Roman horse would be like the size of a pony.
Well, it's not.
So does that look about right?
Quite. The eye sockets are quite close together, aren't they?
Yeah, so it's not huge then.
No. Well, we just had an idea. We'll contact the museum, see what they say, and we just had an idea about getting carbon dated. So if anyone is up for helping fund a carbon dating program, about 400 quid at last count. In fact, I know Trimmy's done some carbon dating of himself. He's done some carbon dating himself, should I say. Not of himself, that would be a bit weird. Unless you can't find your birth certificate, then that might be handy. So he's the man to talk to regarding getting that dated.
Jump down and have a look.
Now, you ready? I'm going to show you.
Yeah. Oh, lovely jubbly.
Look at that bad boy.
Yeah. What's that, cow skull or horse, you reckon?
Cow or horse? Probably a horse. I think it's got a flat sort of.
Yeah.
I don't know. It could be a cow.
Looks like it's spurred, doesn't it?
It could be a calf. So Trimmy's just found another skull.
Cheers. I'll get dirty, eh?
Yes, you're fine.
Oh, it's a little one. Always wear gloves.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah, it's not so bad. Yeah. What's it, see? Just bottom, top jaw, mate.
Is that another horse?
Looks like it could be, doesn't it? I don't know.
Well, the nose bit of it sinks in slightly differently to. It does definitely look horse actually. Now I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Could be cattle.
No, it looks like a young horse.
So I say, I'm not an expert on bone, but we've cleaned that up. And,
Cool. Awesome. Another bone, another skull. Maybe we'll also give that one a. Well, we'll do one skull at a time. You can see the teeth are all intact there.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Wholesome.
Cleaned up on the plinth. That's a little work of art, that is.
That's wholesome,
That's
Trimmy.
awesome. No, no. Excellent. Good guy, dude.
Yeah, definitely some activity around here, some sort of pen. Maybe that's the pen for the horses you found.
Yeah.
So as you can see, it's getting very dark. We've got the head torches out and we're going to see what we can find in the dark. Steve's had a bit of luck, he's found a bit of Roman already. That's the tides we're watching in. Look at that lovely piece.
Nice little rim. Simple Roman. Got a little squiggly pattern.
Yeah, it has got a little squiggly
Yeah,
pattern.
I like little squiggly bit like burnish wear squiggly pattern. Lovely job, yes, the other bits and pieces like that.
So as you can see, a storm hit us. We were getting blown around and getting soaked by horizontal rain, so we decided to call it a day.
Right, mud lovers, this is a couple of days later and I've been reconstructing and cleaning and restoring what was left of the horse's skull in my garden, giving it a good wash, and now I can see a lot clearer what exactly we're looking at. So come and have a look with me. So here is everything that I picked up, and that is the horse's skull there, look. Well, I'd say top half of the skull. It's missing the bottom jaw, but it's got quite a lot still complete. These are the teeth that I pulled out. 5 of those. And this is another tooth. I was a bit confused at this one at some point because I thought, what is that? What sort of tooth has that come from? But yeah, obviously it's part of the other side of this, the front teeth there. But I'm curious to think, I wonder if this was quite an old horse because the teeth look quite worn down to me. So whether this horse died through natural causes, got a bit old and died, or perhaps it was butchered and used as meat. I'm thinking probably the former because of the way the teeth look. So anyway, the big question is, how old is it? It came out of an area where there's predominantly Roman pottery found, as you saw. And Trimmy has found other pieces of Roman in that vicinity, and he was the one showing us. And that whole area is a rubbish tip, we believe. So this probably either was eaten by the Romans or any period in the past, who knows, and then either deposited there or it fell where it stood after it died. But there's no other bones, so maybe this has been washed up, or maybe it's fallen out of that bank and then laid where it was. Interestingly, this piece here wasn't like that. That was like that, or actually it might have been more like, I found it like in that position. So maybe it's been crushed by the elements over time and that's how it's landed. So there's only one way really to find out the age on this, and that is to get it carbon dated. So I propose what we do is send off a little piece, and I've selected this piece here because that has definitely come off that eye socket. And that means that I don't have to send the whole thing away or pick away another little bit. So this little bit here, this little sample bit here, I'm going to send it off, hopefully, and get it carbon dated. But I need a little help from you guys first. That is, if you're interested, because what I plan to do is do some crowdfunding to get this done. If you're all interested and you want to know the age of this horse as much as me, then maybe together as a community we can all pitch in and find out between us together how old this skull is, how old this horse would have been. Is it nearly 2,000 year old? Is it medieval? Is it a lot more recent than that? So anyway, here's what I propose. So if you're like me and you really want to know the age of this horse, please help me and go to the GoFundMe page, which you'll see in the description below, and together we can raise enough money to get the horse skull dated. And I think it'd be really interesting, because if it is Roman, well, that's fascinating, isn't it? It's a Roman horse, or Roman era horse. Whether it's owned by the Romans, we'll probably never know, but it was definitely around at that time, so he would have probably seen the local people that were around at that particular location. So I think it's fascinating to find out. So please help me, and if you feel inspired enough to go, and it's only a couple of quid or a couple of dollars depending on where you're from, and I think together we could raise enough money to get it done. If we do surpass the amount needed and we have extra money, we can also test the other skull that we found on that day that Trimmy found, so we can get 2 horses analysed, which I think would be even more amazing. But I'm not gonna set my sights too high just yet, because well, you never know, you might not be interested, in which case that's fair enough, we'll move on to the next thing. But for me, it's fascinating to find out, you know, how old this thing could be. So here's a look at the other skull, and yeah, it's quite interesting as well. Take a look. So here's skull number 2. Now, quite different to my, in inverted commas, skull, because it's got no top half of it there. That must have worn away or broken. But what is quite interesting about this, and as it's just drying out, as I've just literally just washed it, this side is a lot more burnt in appearance to this side. It almost looks like it may have been in a fire. It smells quite oily. I'm not sure if that means that it's been in a fire or not, but either way, it's definitely got some defining features. Unless it landed, you know, in this part has been submerged in a boggy area for quite a while, and this bit has been exposed to the tide. Maybe that's the reason. I'll just turn it over, and you can see that there's all the teeth, the bottom side of the top side of the jawline there, but no front teeth. They've gone. So there we go. I'll give you a closer look as well, just at this horse's skull, just to show you that I wondered whether this mark there, for example, was natural, or whether it's got into an argument with more horses, or whether that's actually a strike from a human. A few other marks there, but I think these might just be war wounds, you know, where some interesting patterns there, but that is all where the makeup of the bone is, I imagine. Yeah, a bit like that bit there. There's a few little scratches on it, so whether it was just an old horse that had seen quite a lot, got into a few scrapes, literally, with a few, I'm just going to try and lift this up now so you can get a better look at what it looks like underneath as well. Oh, there we go. So that's what it looks like from the bottom. Anyway, I will show this to the Museum of London. Or actually, I'll email them first to see if they're interested, and if they are, I'll take it down there. But I think they may not be that bothered about dating it, so we'll do that for them, and we'll get it done a lot quicker, and everyone can be involved. And you can see now, this is how that was the main part of it there. This bit broke, unfortunately, but I think that was near enough gone anyway. Although that bit was up there, wasn't it? So yeah, that's a bit strange, but that's there. Not sure what this bit is. That obviously fits the same profile shape as the nose. Maybe this was like an inner section of the nostril or something like that. I think probably sits inside, you know, a few layers of bone, perhaps. And again, you've got the front teeth there. So there we go. That is the whole thing, or near enough the whole thing. And I can't wait to find out its age. So if you want help, see the description below for the link, and let's get it done. Let's get the mystery solved. So if you fancy helping out, please donate a couple of quid. The description's below, and together we can solve this mystery.
It was really great to go out Roman pottery hunting with Steve and Si. Don't forget to subscribe to Si's channel if you haven't already. I'd be surprised if you hadn't. Some great hunting going on there. Even though it was quite testing and I did get stuck in the mud, and it took me about 2 weeks to get clean. But it was worth it, because we did get a little haul of pottery, and Si found a very interesting horse's skull, which we're hoping to get a date on sometime. So let's have a look at what we found. Okay, here's a little box of finds, most of which is probably Roman in this section. This is definitely Roman, so we'll have a look at that in a bit more detail. And a bit of Victorian or late Georgian as well. So let's have a look at some of the more standout pieces. So here we have a good cross-section of Roman pottery, mostly grey wares. These are grey coarse wares, coarse in that they were used just for humble purposes like kitchenwares and storage. This one's got the remains of the last meal that was cooked in it, and I can imagine some Roman housewife being a bit upset that it didn't quite turn out the way she expected. This piece is interesting because you can see those white flecks in the clay. That's shell tempering, which was added to the clay to help with thermal shock and with the firing in the kiln. So either you see the white bits of clay, or you see voids on the outside where the clay has weathered out, there for example, or there. So typical Roman rims. Roman pottery's got round rims typically, and can be found obviously in red clay and grey clay for greyware. There's another rim there. That's a better view. You can just see there's a zone of burnishing there, where the top half of the shard is a different texture to the other half. The clay was just smoothed over with a stone or a piece of wood, just to compact the surface, and it just makes that shiny effect, which is decorative. So called black burnished ware, which was made in Kent in great quantities. In the early part of the Roman period, we're talking 1st or 2nd centuries normally. Other decorative techniques, you can just see on the edge, it's spalled away a bit there, but you can see some lines there, and even the most humble vessels would have some cross-hatching quite commonly applied to it, just with little lines impressed into the clay, make a cross-hatching pattern. Or grooves were impressed into the clay, which make quite a nice thing, and often wavy lines were put in as well as decoration, very simply done just on the wheel. And slip coating. So this white residue on this Roman rim is some slip coating, which just would have given it a white appearance, just to raise it a bit above the humble other everyday pottery. This was an interesting shard at the bottom of a bowl in pseudo-Samian. So it's not quite the real deal, but it's a British imitation of Samian. So it's got a slip on it, and it is probably a bit of tableware, so this is a bit more posh than the other stuff we found. This might look like nothing much, but it's actually one of the more interesting pieces that we found on the trip. And I haven't found a piece of this type of pottery before. It is Roman. You can see it's got white flecks of shell tempering, but it's also got pink spots in it as well, little pink pieces. And this is grog. Grog is just broken up, ground up pieces of pottery, and again was added to the clay to help with the thermal shock. So it's grog tempered ware, and this is later on in the Roman period, so we're talking the 3rd or 4th century for this piece. Quite thin and nicely made there. And Steve found this very impressive pot base, which he very kindly donated to the Hemery Pottery Museum. This very thick piece of clay is probably from an amphora. It's very solid, very thick. You can actually see, and I hope you can see there, the fingerprints of the potter, which is quite amazing. And it's got some inclusions. It's quite coarse clay. Large amphora weigh up to 25 kilograms empty. But that's a nice bit of Roman pottery. I'll just zoom into the centre of the piece, and just in the centre of the screen you should be able to see some of the Roman fingerprints, which is a nice link to the potter that formed this vessel nearly 2,000 years ago. So a few more recent wares, late Georgian or Victorian. You can just see that thistle motif on the surface, which is quite nice. Some transfer printed Pottery, a ghostly tree, which is quite interesting. The base of a tea bowl with a little bit of hand-painted flower. So this would be late 18th or early 19th century. A bit of decoration on the outside, and a bit of a blue tinge for its pearlware, which often have that little blue tinge on it. And a bit of very common slipware. This is Sunderland type slipware, which is found all over the country from 1800 to 1900, and that's part of a serving bowl or a kitchen bowl or a dairy bowl, something like that. One intriguing find, I don't know if you can guess what this is. It's actually flint, but it's calcined in that it's been heated in a fire. This might have happened just accidentally, but it could be an indication that prehistoric man was in the area, because they used to heat these flints in the fire and then put them into water to heat the water quicker. So they're sometimes called pot boilers. That's a bit of calcined flint, so an interesting find.